You know how when you ride a bike, after you learn how to ride a bike, it's so easy to imagine what that experience is like because you already know how to ride a bike. But to a person who's never ridden a bike before, it's really hard for them to get into what that feeling of riding a bike would be like, you know? And this isn't just about bike riding. This is about, sometimes hiking as well. Hiking fucking sucks. I hate hiking. But when I'm at the top and I'm looking at the view, it's amazing, right? I visited Nepal. I visited a town called Tansen. And Tansen, there was a high mountain that we needed to climb up. But then once you're at the top, you see the Himalayas, and it's amazing. But when you're not there, I can explain to you how amazing it is. It doesn't mean anything to you because again, you're not in that situation. You're not in that situation to know what the actual impact of it would be like. So why I am starting with this is because today I would like to talk to you about worry. You know what really sucks about worrying? Um, it takes up a lot of your mental energy, but you don't really understand how much energy you can claim back into your life. Like, how less tired physically, how less tired you will feel, and how much motivation you're gonna have when you're not doing anything instead of wanting to just like bleh, like melt down on the sofa, and how patient you will be with other people when they aren't really like acting in the way you want them. So in all these different scenarios, you like it's like night and day, but it's so hard for you to understand what that experience could be like when you are in the worrying zone. But you know what, I started out with worry because that was primarily why I started making this video, but it's about spending emotional energy. So that's a pretty loaded word, right? So I'm gonna try my best to explain what spending emotional energy is like. Okay, so suppose um, you are applying to a college, right? But you know what? If you are interested in going to a trade school and the college is like you're gonna go if there you have a scholarship or whatever, and if that's in the cards, okay, good. But if it's not gonna be a full ride, then you're pretty happy with going to a trade school, and then getting a career in a trades, and then you're gonna have a good life, right? It's a skill that's always in demand. But now, in that case, it doesn't really matter whether the college gets back to you or not, because why? It's not your first priority. But now imagine this scenario, right? If you're the type of person who overthinks kind of thing, if you're the type of person whose like heads are always spinning around, think about this. Oh man, what if I get into that college and I heard they have a really good culinary arts program. Then do I want to start cooking? Oh man, I should maybe look into some cookware, and then you go to Amazon or whatever other online shopping platform you use, and then you look at cookware and it's like, oh, this is so expensive, but maybe I can use it at the school. Okay, and then you're waiting for the results, and then you hear news about how that school doesn't offer culinary arts anymore. Okay, but you see, you already dug yourself a really big hole about the culinary arts. So now you feel devastated, right? Oh man, I was really looking forward to that, but oh man, I do have my trade school, but well, if not the culinary arts, then do I really want to not consider that college at all? But what if they give me a full ride? And then you can see how much more thinking you need to do, right? And so what I'm saying is this effect is, hard to detect because you're most likely in the loop always, but it's really pronounced and it's easy to detect when there's a lot of up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. See, when this happens, like you overslept. Oh my god, I overslept. And I look at my alarm clock, it's like 9 o'clock. And then I look at oh, it's Sunday. Then I'm like, oh, and then you relax, right? And then you realize, oh my god, I had a friend's brunch at 9:30, and then now you're like, oh, I need, and then suddenly the friend cancels, right? You know, so you see how when you let external events dictate your mood, you're always at the whim of what happens in the world. You don't have stability. You're not grounded by yourself. So something happens. Something happens. Oh, complete relaxation. And then something else happens. And then it goes away. Oh, now you feel. And then what this forms into, unfortunately, into you're relaxed. But then now you start worrying. But what if something happens again? Right? It's this really vicious loop that's very hard to detect because it becomes so normalized for you to continue participating in this loop. But once you get the taste of ease, it's really easy to detect when you're spiraling again, and it's so easy to put the brakes on the spiral once you get the taste of ease at least once. So that kind of a ease is actually very, very important, I think. And so one of the common things that I work with all of my clients on is accessing that ease. Okay, you don't need to do anything. And even if you are going to do something, you are going to improve with time. The next, what something mattering a lot implies that there are limited opportunities. But life doesn't actually work that way. When you look at anything in the zoomed in kind of a perspective, anything is limited. But when you look at life from a zoomed out perspective, nothing is limited, right? Okay, so you might want to really win the inaugural competition for whatever, and you lost. And you're like, oh man, but this is the only inaugural, But guess what? There will be other tournaments in the future, right? There will be other inaugural tournaments. And, you think that every competition is unique, right? The second competition is unique. Third competition is unique. But at the same time, when you look at it from the long run, they're just all competitions. So, worrying and letting other things dictate your energy really depends on your kind of, this is what people typically call the scarcity mindset, right? Everything is limited. And I have to care about these things because it dictates so much of my happiness, whether I get this limited thing or not. And we have to understand that in the long run, right? Things aren't that limited. You're always going to have other options. So, not only will you have other options, you're always going to have second chances. You failed the first time, you're going to get the second. You failed the second time, you're going to have the third. And that is always going to be the case. But now, the important thing to note here is while this is generally the case, that you are always going to have, a lot of opportunities and a lot of chances as long as you are alive. This means that there are people out there who actually do have limited resources, right? There are people who actually are starving to death because of the lack of resources. The earthquakes in Myanmar and, Thailand. People, Thailand has a good, public image, but, Myanmar or Burma has a civil war. And it doesn't get a lot of attention that all the pain and suffering that the country is going through. So, a lot of people are dying because of the lack of resources. But, that's just one example of a recent thing. There are plenty of countries in the world that are just neglected by the international society. Korea used to be one of those countries, right? When, Japan colonized Korea, the Koreans went to the Netherlands, to the Hagues at the international court to plead for Korea's case. But then nobody really cared because Korea wasn't a force to be reckoned with. So, we have to understand that when we feel these anxieties, when we feel worries, when we feel all these emotional ups and downs because of the perceived lack of resources, we have to understand that it originates from an actual life event. But if we realistically think about it, if you are watching this video, you have access to the internet. you probably have a personal device. And there are a lot of things you can take advantage of in this world to make your choices and options not limited, right? And I'm speaking English. So if you're understanding this, you're kind of at the level where your basic needs are either met, or you live in a country where those basic needs could be met should things not work out. There's like welfare programs and such. But that means there are people who cannot, for whatever reason, right? So when we turn our worries and emotional ups and downs inside out and use that as an opportunity to practice love in this world, you're actually going to find that when you actually meet somebody in need, it'll completely change the perspective of how you thought you were in need, how you thought you had limited options. So those are sort of my general guideline about thinking of how to detect these emotional ups and downs and a lot of wasted emotional energy. And number two, what to do with that emotional energy.